Olim legati ab clusinis Romam venerant, auxilium potentes adversos senones, gentem Gallicam. I don't know about you, but I always find it somewhat comforting when we start a story with Olim, because, that's like fairy tales or special stories, right? Long time ago, Olim upon a time. Subject, these legates, and where are these legates from? They are from this place. And Romam, locative, they came where? To Rome. Why did they come to Rome? Not quite sure. Let's see. Auxilium, direct object. And this is the direct object of potentes, because we've got some sort of participial clause on. Potentes, of course, goes way back here to the legates. So those guys, potentes auxilium. And why did they need that? Well, because we have this prepositional phrase going on. Against the senones, and then this whole phrase here describes the senones, so that is the end of our participial clause. So they came there looking for this against those people, otherwise described as this. Remember, this phrase is an apposition to the senones. They're both the same case. Okay. Tum Romani miserent legatos qui monerant Gallos ne amicos populi Romani oppugnarent. Okay, so how did the Romans react? Well, subject, they sent this direct object. That's pretty simple. This looks like the main part of the sentence. And then we've got this qui thing going on here. Okay, so we're introducing some sort of relative clause. Oh, well, when you see this monerant, this subjunctive, I bet you say, oh, Mrs. Hahn, this has got to be a relative clause of purpose, because I know that qui takes the place of ut with the subjunctive. So it explains why the Romans sent the legates. They sent the legates who were supposed to do this or to do this. Monerant, of course, means to warn, and that in turn introduces its own subjunctive clause, because when you're warning somebody, you're kind of giving them a command. So this is going to introduce an indirect command. So they sent the legates to warn the Gauls. Nay, they're warning the Gauls apparently instead of ut to do something, they're warning them not to do something. So this is the end of our relative clause of purpose right here. And then, dependent upon that, we have this negative incorrect command, this nay clause. They warn them not to do what? To oppugnarent. They warn the Gauls not to oppugnarent, the friends of the Roman people. So that ends our indirect command. Isn't that cool? Our main sentence is just so short, right? Our main sentence is Romani miserent legatos, but we got this lovely relative clause of purpose followed by an indirect command afterwards. Latin is so much fun that way. Prelio tamen commisso, legati Romani contra ius gentium arma caperent, auxiliumque clusinis tulerent. Oh, I bet you recognize this. Do I even have to say it? It would kind of be weird if I didn't, wouldn't it? Okay, fine. It's an ablative absolute. You knew that. However, with the noun having been participled, and we're going to say having been, because this is a perfect passive. I don't see an NT there. With the battle having been that, we're still waiting for the main part of the sentence. Oh, here it is. The Roman legates. There's our subject. Whatever they did it in this preposition, with the prepositional phrase, against the law of tribes or of countries. So basically, what's going on here is the Roman legates are sent as diplomats, kind of like ambassadors. And ambassadors are not supposed to get their hands dirty. They're just supposed to talk and be diplomatic. They're not supposed to do this other thing that they're getting ready to do. So against the law of the countries, or like the rules of diplomacy, what do they do? Oh, here it is. We've got our subject, and then we have our direct object, and then we've got our verb. That's right. They are supposed to have diplomatic immunity, and they're also not supposed to fight. So subject, verb, direct object, verb here. So they did that. And what else did they do? We've got another direct object, tulerant. So here's the first thing they did, and here's the second thing they did. They tulerant auxilium to this indirect object, to the dative, to the Clusini. So they broke some rules there. Galli postea a senatu Romano postula verant ut pro iure gentium ita violato legati Romani dederentur. Okay, so the Gauls are ticked. And apparently they're mad afterwards. So here's our subject, the Gauls. Let's see what they did. Well, whatever they did it. Prepositional phrase. No, there's nothing passive here. They demanded from the Roman Senate, not by the Roman Senate. That's kind of weird. Okay, what did they demand from the Roman Senate? They probably demanded an indirect command because they're trying to get the Senate to do something. Notice we've got this ut here. So we're going to bracket that off. That starts our indirect command, and it's going to end at the subjunctive verb dederentur. So let's see what they demand. They demand that. Boring prepositional phrase. Probably there. Because of this ablative, and notice we've got this participle modifying it, because of the violated law, the broken law of diplomacy of countries, the law broken so much, they demand that, oh, here it is, the subject, the Roman ambassadors, this happened to them because that's a passive verb. Okay, so the Gauls didn't do anything except for maybe complain a little bit. Hoc negato. Oh, I guess it didn't go so well because we got this ablative absolute here, right? With this thing having been negato, with this thing having been whatevered, exercitus Gallicus, the Gallic army, Romam, we got another locative, to Rome, profectus est. And I'm sure you recognize this deponent verb here. So apparently it didn't go the way they planned. So the Gallic army set out for Rome. Oh, this is getting exciting. Romani, qui nihil ad tantum periculum idoneum paraverent, apud flumen aliam superati sunt. Okay, so we've got some Romans as a subject, and then we have this nice relative clause describing the Romans. Qui, of course, goes like that. Nihil is our direct object, and idoneum goes with it. Nothing suitable. What about nothing suitable, the direct object? For this prepositional phrase, oh, so here it is. Who prepared nothing suitable for this thing because apparently they didn't think they were going to get marched upon by a bunch of irritated Gauls. So what did they do? Apud flumen aliam, near the Alia River. Oh, that's not so good. Superati sunt, passive verb. The Romans were overpowered. Why? The Romans who hadn't gotten themselves ready for a Gallic invasion, apparently. Diem quo hoc praelium factum est, Romani postea alliantiam appellaverent. Okay, so, we have Black Monday, Pearl Harbor Day, the day that will live in infamy, 9/11, certain special days in the history of America. Well, apparently the Romans considered this to be such a traumatic event that they do something special for this day too. So the day, quo, on which relative clause, and we'll even mark it here, quo hoc praelium factum est, this battle, and the verb was made or done. What about this day? Notice it's accusative. Well, the Romans, afterwards, they called the day Alliancem. So I guess that was a bad day on their calendar. Maybe it has like a frowny face or something on it. Magna pars exercitus in calamus veos perfugit. So, well, I guess it wasn't completely bad. Not everybody died. We got a subject modified by a genitive here. We also have an adjective modifying the subject. So a ginormous part of the army. In calamus, another locative. Where did they go? They ran to this place. Okay, so the army ran away. Caeteri Romani petierunt et ne clausis quidem portis urbis in arcum capitoliumque cum conjugibus et liberis se cantulerunt. Okay, so we've got a contrast thing going on here. Notice part of the army did this. The others, i.e. the rest of the army, the other soldiers, this is locative again. Watch out for petierunt. They are syncopating it. This should really be petierunt, from peto, petere, petiwi, but they like to do that sometimes. They syncopated that. They took out the V. So they headed for Rome. And, okay, ne clausis quidem. All right, this is interesting. Well, first of all, we have an ablative absolute. You can see that with the gates of the city having been closed. But what about this ne quidem? Well, that means not even. So apparently they were in such a hurry, they left the front door open. Kind of a problem. So the rest of them headed for Rome. They left the doors open. Okay, on the Citadel at the Capitol line. With their conjugibus et liberis, they contulerant themselves. So the rest of the guys brought themselves here with those people, and they were in such a hurry they didn't even shut the door, which is kind of a problem if you have a horde of Gauls coming upon you. Galli ingressi urbem nemini parcunt, divripiunt incanduntque tecta. Oh, this is not looking good for the Romans. Subject, participle modifying the Gauls having entered urbem, the city, participial phrase. Notice ingressi is a deponent verb. Okay, nemini is dative, and that's because parco parcere paperci. Don't you love that word? Parco parcere paperci. This verb takes a dative. So the Gauls did this to no one. And what else did they do? They did this, and they did this, tecta. Okay, that can be roofs, but I think that's kind of poetic. What he really means here is the houses, not just the roofs. You can't burn just the roof of a house. I think that's kind of hard to do. Post aliquot dies, testudine facta, impetum in arcum fecerent. Okay, after some time, ablative absolute here, with the testudine having been made. Okay, and you should recognize this phrase, impetum fecerent. That's to make an attack. And the Gauls here, they made this attack on the Archum. Well, why do we care? Well, that's because that's where everybody ran away with their wives and children, to the Archum. Uh-oh, problems looming. Ad Romani medio fere calle resisterent, atque inde ex loco superiore impetu facto gallos pepulerant. Okay, this is getting exciting. But the Romans, where were they? They were in this ablative place, almost, very. They were almost there. And what did they do when they were there? They resisterant. And then, from this prepositional phrase, ex loco superiore, which makes sense because you're on a hill, so you do have the higher ground, which should help you a little. Impetu facto, ablative absolute here, with an impetu having been made. What did the Romans do after all this stuff? Oh, pepulerant gallos. Okay. Obsidio inde a Gallis parata est. Okay, your subject is obsidio, which is like a siege. Notice it's got the same root. Sidio, that's like sedet, which is to sit. It's the same root, they just changed the vowel a little bit. So this is the subject, inde, and then you have your prepositional phrase and your verb. So the obsidio was prepared then by the Gauls. Pars exercitus Gallici demissa est ad frumentum conferendum ex agris populorum finitimorum. Okay, so if you've got a bunch of barbarians invading a foreign city, you got to take care of your supply chain. So part of the Gallic army, that looks like a subject. We've got this genitive phrase modifying the part. And then your verb, of course, is demissa est. So there's your verb. We have a prepositional phrase. Oh, that's a special prepositional phrase. Why do I say that? Because it has an nd. Because ad plus an nd word means for the purpose. For the purpose of collecting the grain, by the way, that is a gerundive. For the purpose of gathering grain, part was sent out. And where was it sent? From the field. Oh, well, it's not saying where it was sent, but it's telling where the grain was coming from. From the fields, ex agris, of the unfortunate neighbors. Okay. Hos fortuna ipsa duxet Ardeam, ubi Camillus, imperator clarissimus in exilio vivebat. Okay, hos. Well, this is referring to those Gauls who went out to go get food. Remember, they were plundering neighboring fields. But, subject here, Fortuna. Notice ipsa is intensifying Fortuna. Fortune herself led those guys where? To this place. Notice locative again to Ardea. And what's special about Ardea? Ubi Camillus, oh, random Roman. And here's a phrase that describes him. That's helpful. Oh, well, for whatever reason, He was not living at Rome, but instead, in this prepositional phrase, he was living at Ardea. Ardeates eo duce castra gallorum nocte appugnant, et solutos somno trudicant. Ooh, that's kind of gory. Okay, Ardeates, those are the people who live in Ardea. And we have an ablative absolute here. Notice this is a noun and a pronoun. Instead of with noun participle, we're saying with him, Camillus, as Duce. Castra Gallorum, the camps of the Gauls, that is your direct object. Well, whatever the Ardean people did with Camillus as a leader, they did it when? Nocte, at night. Oh, here's your verb, appugnant. So these guys appugnant this place at night. Yay! It's nice to see help is on the way. And what else do they do? At solutos, oh dear. Well, they do this, trudicant, which is a great word. It kind of means like to kill unjustly or slaughter. So, another word for kill. You needed one of those. They killed the direct object, those guys. This is an interesting word, solutos. You can use that word for like released or drunk, or in this case, just like relaxed. Why were they relaxed? With sleep. Sometimes you can say salutos, we know, but we're not doing this because it's a Holy Cross school. So instead, they slaughter the guys who just happened to be asleep, not drunk. Veis interim non animi solum in dies, sed etiam vires crescebant. Okay, so before we translate this sentence, let's do a quick recap. We got a bunch of Romans trapped on the Capitoline Hill with the Gauls besieging them. We have some of the army hanging out over in Veii because remember they had run away from the Gauls, and then the rest of the Romans are up in the Capitoline, and then you have Camillus getting some people from Ardea to help out a little bit. So now the scene switches over back to Veii. What's going on with all those Romans? You know, the ones who ran away the first time? Meanwhile, at Veii, non animi solum in dies, said etiam vires crescebant. So, not only non solum animi, that would probably be like, I don't know, spirit. In dies, that's a nifty phrase meaning day by day. But etiam vires, oh, do not mix this up with the word for guy. I cannot stand it when we do that. This is not weary, but this is vis, that irregular noun which means strengths. So not only were their spirits getting better day by day, those wusses who ran away, but also their strengths were increasing. So maybe we have hope for these guys up on the hill. Nam praeter Romanos, qui ex pugna aliensi eo perfugerant, voluntarii ex latio conveniebant. Okay, praeter, really important preposition here. In addition to those Romans, which Romans? The ones who are described in this relative clause here. Goes like that. From the battle at Alesia, or at that place. Okay, in addition to those Romans who had fled to this place from that battle. Oh, subject. Volunteers. Well, that's nice. I didn't realize they had so many neighbors who were interested in helping Rome for once. Okay, so the volunteers were gathering from Latium. Maybe they decided it would be better to help the Romans than to have random Gauls wandering around. He iam constituerent Romam hostibus liberare. For these guys, okay, you decide, an accusative infinitive. They decided to do what? To free Rome from the bad guys. Omnibus placuit Camillum Arcesi, sed antia senatum consuli. Okay, placet is a special verb. It is impersonal, it is pleasing, and it usually takes a dative. You are usually pleasing to somebody. So it was pleasing to everyone. What is pleasing to everyone? Well, this part's pretty simple, except kind of not. Well, two different accusative infinitive constructions are pleasing to everyone. This idea, number one, but before that, antia, before, but also this thing needs to get done. And both of these infinitives are passive. So it is pleasing to everyone that Camillus be summoned, but first they want the Senate to be consuli. Those two ideas are pleasing to everyone. Wouldn't it be nice if placuit was plural? But they don't want to do that. They're just assuming you can figure that out. lucky I'm here to help you. Ad eam rem Pontius Cominius audax juvenis sublevatus cortico secundo tiberi ad urbem deferter. Okay, prepositional phrase. For this purpose, for this thing, I guess they found a volunteer, his name being Pontius Cominius. And what do we know about him? He's a bold guy, right? Okay, this is really funny because if you don't get what's going on, your eyeballs are probably crossing. Okay, he was not really lifted up, as this says here, but he was probably like transported. Cortice is the word for tree bark, and the Romans will do that. They'll use the word for the material something is made out of instead of actually saying what the thing was. So they don't really mean tree bark here, but they mean like a raft made out of tree bark. So this Cominius guy carried on a raft, and it's a favorable raft, probably downstream, secundo. Secundus usually means like second or following. So a following raft, which is kind of weird, but what they mean is a raft going downstream. Where? Oh, to where? On the Tiber. So this guy, a sneaky guy, he was carried on a downward streaming raft on the Tiber, and where did he end up? He was carried to the city, because that's how he snuck in to go get permission from the Senate. Senatu probante. Surprise, surprise, how else are they going to react? Of course they're going to approve because they're being besieged by a bunch of Gauls. Camillus dictator dictus est. Okay, ablative absolute. Then we have a subject, and then instead of factus est, we have that nominative again. The Camillus was named dictator. Interim arx Romae Capitoliumque in ingenti pericula fuerunt. Okay, meanwhile, we're catching up what's going on. Oh, the citadel, what citadel? At Rome. And the capital, so these two things are the subject. Subject 1, citadel. Subject 2, capital. Okay, big danger, verb, the verb of being, from sum esse fui. Nocte enam Galli, praemisso milite qui viam temptaret, tanto silentio in summam evaserent, ut non solum custodes valerent, sed ne canes quidem excitarent. Uh-oh, this is not looking good. Let's see, nocte, at night. For, remember, enum is the word for, and it's kind of like a footnote where it's kind of giving you a little bit more interesting information about what's going on. So why were things in such great danger? Well, because the Gauls, okay, praemisso milite, that is an ablative absolute, with the soldier having been praemissoed. Well, what else do we know about the soldier? We know that he's got a relative clause here, but not just any kind of relative clause. Look, you got that qui plus a subjunctive, which gives you a purpose. It's a relative clause of purpose, with a soldier having praemissoed to do what? To temptaret the way. Tanto silentio, so this is describing how the soldier traveled with such great silence. So he was a sneaky soldier. In summum, this is like the top probably of the citadel. Okay, so wait, why is evaserent plural? Oh, because the main subject is still the Gauls. So the Gauls did this, and why were they able to do it? Probably because of the soldier who snuck up ahead of time. So the Gauls evaded, and it was such silence they invaded, or they came about, they traveled, they snuck around with such silence that we've got a result clause here. That what? It's going to start here, and it's going to go down here, because we've got all these subjunctive verbs. So they moved around so sneaky that not only did they do this to the guards, but they excitarent, not even ne quidem, the dogs. So they were so sneaky that not only non solum did they do this to the guards, but they didn't even ne quidem do this to the dogs. So these are super sneaky, stealthy ninja Gauls, apparently. On seres autem non fefalerent, qui aves unionis sacrae erant. Well, apparently sneaky ninja Gauls might be able to trick guards and dogs, but geese are another issue. Okay, so this is accusative. The subject is still the Gauls. However, they did not, notice it's the same word as fallerant, except this is perfect indicative, whereas that one is imperfect subjunctive. So they didn't trick the geese. Why not? Well, probably because, wait, we've got a relative clause describing the geese. Who, they're special geese. Who were birds sacred to Juno. So apparently you can trick guards and dogs, but sacred birds are another story. Nam Marcus Manilius vir bello egregius clangore eorum alla rumque crepitu excitatus de yecit Gallum qui jam in sumo constituerat. Okay, so the geese do something interesting, and then this guy, Manlius, a new hero. How do we know he's a new hero? Because they give us this nice phrase describing him. A guy notable in war, famous in war, so he's already got a reputation. Okay, we've got this ablative. By the noise, clangore is interesting. I probably would have used clamore myself. By whose noise? The noise of them. Something plural? Probably the geese, masculine plural. So he was somethinged by the noise of the geese. Oh, not just of the geese and of by the crepitu of the wings. Oh, I kind of like this. Look, we've got an ablative with a genitive going that way and an ablative with a genitive going that way. And the excitatus, of course, describes manliness. So manliness, having been excitatused by the noise of those guys and by the crepitu of the wings, what did he do? He tossed down, probably the bad guy. Remember? Primusum milite? He tossed down the one Gaul. What about the one Gaul? He had just made it to the top. Oh, that's kind of bogus for the Gaul. He probably worked really hard to get up there. And the minute he gets to the tippy top in sumo, Manlius is there with squawking geese to throw him down. Iamque aliiv Romani, telis saxisque hostes propellant, totaque acies gallorum praecaps defertor. And now the other Romans, who probably woke up from all the squawking and the tossing of people. Subject. Okay, so that's your subject. And then we've got two ablatives here. What did they use? They used those two things to do what? Well, they tossed down the bad guys. That's what you do when they're sneaking up your hill. And, new subject, the entire line. What entire line? The entire line of Gauls. Praecaps, headlong. That modifies, of course, the acies. Defertor. So they didn't make it. Oh, now think of that next time you have duck soup instead of goose soup, and you'll know why. Said, Fames jam utrumque exercitum ergebat, gallos pestilentia etiam. Okay, so we've got this long siege going on. You have a bunch of people stuck up on the hill. And eventually, fames, there's your subject, verb, and utrumque exercitum, each army. So there are two armies involved, and they both have the same problem. And furthermore, pestilentia and ergebat is understood to be the verb of pestilentia as well. Pestilentia ergebat gallos. So they're having a siege, but it's not really that much fun for anyone involved. Diem ex die Romani frustra auxilium ab dictatore expectabant. Okay. Diem ex die. I think this whole thing means like every single day. Here's your subject, the Romans, frustra, in vain. Auxilium, direct object, another prepositional phrase, ab dictatore, and expectabant. Okay, Romani, expectabant, auxilium, from the sky. So where is he? Inquiring minds want to know. Pos remo, mille pondo auri, cum gallis pacti sunt, ut obsidionem relinquerent. So they're waiting around. The Gauls are tired of being there. What are they going to do? Well, if you can't fight your way out, let's use money. Finally, this is the weight. It's ablative here. By means of, with this much gold. And you know I don't do numbers, but you can go look it up. With the galleys, pacti sunt. The subject here is the Romans. Deponent. They made peace with the Gauls. so that, or they didn't really make peace, they like agreed so that the Gauls would relinquish the siege. So they made a deal. We'll pay you and you'll go away. Huic rei per se terpissimae indignitas arita est. Non pondera ab Gallis alata sunt in equa. Okay, to this thing, dative, which was, notice terpissimae is in apposition or describing this thing, which was per se, in and of itself, terpissimae. Subject here, indignitas, and then here's your verb. So if you wanted to do it in literal order, indignity was added to this thing, already terpissimae on its own. And what is this indignitas that was added? Well, back then they had scales. So if you're going to weigh out 1,000 pounds of gold, you're going to do it on one of those like old-fashioned scales where you put something on one side and something on the other until it evens out, because they didn't have digital scales. So let's see what the problem is. Non pondera, the weight, ab Gallis, by the Gauls, alata sunt, there's your passive verb. So it was an uneven weight. It was an uneven scale. That was alata sunt by the Gauls. So they rigged it. Romanis recusantibus gladius a Breno rege Galnorum pondere aditus est, cum his verbis, y victis. Okay, we've got an ablative absolute here. Romanis recusantibus. With the Romans doing this, they're probably saying, dude, not fair. Oh, a gladius. Do not mix up the weapon gladius with the guy who carries it, the gladiator. Gladius, and then we've got this ablative showing who's going to do something. Gladius aditus est. Okay, and there's your verb. The sword was added by this guy. So wait, what are we going to do with this pondere? Well, this is dative. It's showing where the sword was added to. So it's added to the weight that where the scale is already tipped uneven. So he threw it on there with these words. And what did he say? Y victis, woe to the conquered. So basically they're saying, hey, this isn't fair. And he's like, too bad. Here's a sword. Make it worse. Okay. Sed priscam res perfecta est. Dictator pervenet. Aferique aurum de medio et gallos sumoveri usit. Oh, look, help is on the way. Priusquam temporal, before the thing was done, yea, Camillus, the dictator, arrived. And what happened next? Okay, so we've got two verbs for Camillus. One, pervenet, and two, usit. And of course, we're going to note that usit takes an accusative infinitive construction. So this whole accusative infinitive is dependent on usit. So he arrived and he ordered that aurum aferi de medio et gallos sumoveri. So he ordered this accusative to do or to be done, this infinitive from the middle, prepositional phrase, and he ordered the Gauls to be infinitive as well. Cum illi dicerunt se pactos esse, negat eam pactionem valere, quae, postquam ipse dictator creatus esset, in uso suo facta esset, tum denuntiat Gallis ut se ad praelium parent. Okay, hey, this is kind of cool, because remember, he's a dictator. He has absolute power. So he shows up and he's like, nope, deal's over. And let's see, we got a cum clause there. And it's going to end here. So when those guys said, and of course that's going to introduce its own little accusative infinitive construction. I know, so that they agreed. Okay, and this is Camillus. He's a subject here. He denies. That's a way of saying a negative indirect command. He says that not. He says that this accusative infinitive is not. So he's saying that he denies that, or he says that this thing is not valid. Why not? This thing, meaning the agreement to pay the Gauls off to leave them alone, And then he's going to say why, because quae describes the pactionem. Which, before we get to describing the quae more, we get this nice little dependent clause. Excuse me, that's temporal. After he himself, dictator creasut esset. So this happens before this. So which, after he was made dictator, and then we still have to keep going. Oh, and then here's the verb with the quae. Facta est. Was made, facta esset, my bad, in uso suo, with his not command, i.e. without his permission. So he denies that this agreement is valid, which, after he was made dictator, which was made, i.e. the agreement, which was made without his permission after he had already been made dictator. So he's like, you guys can't do that. Then, okay, so that relative clause ends here. So then Camillus denounces or says to the Gauls, he gives them a command to do this, that they prepare themselves for battle. So much for paying off the Gauls. We're going back to war because that's what Romans do. So a quick recap. Camillus shows up on the scene. Everybody says, hey, this is our arrangement. And notice Camillus does one thing. Here, he denies that it's true. And then over here, he tells the Gauls to go get ready. And a bunch of freaky dependent clauses in between. You can do this. Galli et in urba et altero prelio via gabina superati sunt. Well, that de-escalated quickly. So notice we have the et. The Gauls are subject. Et means both and. So let's see. Both where? Here and in another battle, probably at this place. Oh, they were superatied. Yay, go Romans. Dictator triumphans in urbem rediet. Okay, I think you can handle that. Just notice a prepositional phrase here. Triumphs are always fun. And let's see. Oh, apparently they've got some sort of quote thing here. Romulus ac parens patriae conditor alter urbis appellabatur. So he did such a nice job saving the world that he was called either Romulus or parens patriae or another thing, another founder of the city. So they really like this Camillus dictator guy for saving them from the Gauls. Diende servatum in bello patriam itrum in pace servavit. Then, let's see, servatum, feminine accusative singular, direct object. I wonder what it's going with. Hold that thought in your head and we'll see. In war, oh, over here, patriam. So servatum, the saved fatherland, the saved country, but we're still waiting to see what's going on with it. Oh, and then we've got an ablative or prepositional phrase, and then here's your verb. So, and then Camillus saved the fatherland that he saved in war. He saved it again in peace. Okay, let's look at that again. Then he saved the fatherland, having been saved in war. He saved that same fatherland in peace. What do we mean by that? Cum enum tribuni plebem agitarent ut relictis Romae ruinis, veos migrarent, Camillus oratione acri civibus persuasit, ut Romam restis tuerent. Okay, when the tribunes, and they're doing this in a cum clause, we're going to bracket that off. Okay, and then notice we have another subjunctive clause here with this ut. We'll figure out why in 2 seconds. So we haven't got to the main part of our sentence yet. When the tribunes were agitating the plebs, and they were urging, which of course brings in another indirect command. When they're trying to get the plebs to do what? To migrarent, to this place, with this ablative absolute, with the ruins of Rome having been abandoned. So the tribunes were trying to get the plebs to go to Veii, with the ruined city having been abandoned, because remember the Gauls trashed it. So when all this was going on, Camillus, oh, what did he do? Well, he did it with a sharp speech, not really sharp, but probably like powerful or persuasive. Oh, and he persuaded the dative, because that's what you do. You persuade the citizens in the dative, and he persuaded them to do yet another indirect command. And how do we know that? Well, we've got a verb of persuading. We've got the ut plus a subjunctive verb. To restituerant Romam. Okay. Centurio quoque populum movit, voce opportune emissa, qui cum cohortibus forum transient clamavit. Signum statue signifer, hic manebimus optime. So, while this big, huge debate is going on, and Camillus is saying, guys, don't leave, a random centurion shows up. Really, it's a centurion, and he just shows up out of the blue. Also a centurion, and what did he do? Well, he did it to the people. Oh, he moved the people. He convinced with the people. And how did he do that? Voce opportune emissa. With the voice having been participled, conveniently. Opportune is an adverb there. And then we're going on. And how did he do this? Let's see. He used his voice conveniently. Who, qui, of course, is talking about the centurion. Cum cohortibus, prepositional phrase. Who transiens walking across the forum with his troops. He shouted. So there's the end of our relative clause. So let's look at this again. The main part of the sentence is centurio populum movit. The centurion convinced the people. How did he do it? Well, he did it. He shouted. And when did he shout? He, when he was going across the forum, shouted with his buddies. When he was going across the forum with his buddies, he shouted. And what did he say? He said it with an imperative. Place the sign, because they're marching and he's got some sort of like military standard symbol thing going. Place the sign, and he's talking to the sign carrier. Hey, sign carrier, place the sign. Here, in this place, manebimus, first person plural, we will stay, the best. So they're having this debate about whether or not to leave or stay, and all of a sudden this guy randomly shows up and he's like, here, put a big symbol right here. We'll stay here because it's the best place. So apparently it showed up at just the right time. Qua voce audita, ablative absolute, with which voice, having been participled, et senatus e curia egressus omen accipere se conclamavit, et plebs circumfusa probaverent. Hey, do you see the et here? Both and. So we got two things going. Both the Senate, participial clause here, with a prepositional phrase inside, having egressus from the curia. Okay, omen accipere say, hey, we've got accusative infinitive going on. Why do we have an indirect statement here? Because of this verb. So both the Senate shouted that they accipere the omen, having left from the curia. So this is one thing. And two. And the plebs, cur confusa, modifying the plebs, and the plebs probaverent, approved it. Oh my gosh, did the Senate and the plebs just agree? That's amazing. And we finished. Woo-hoo.